Pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
The popular kids' tune, Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posies, comes from the 13th and 14th century outbreak of the plague, where a pocket full of posies was needed to prevent the smell of decaying and necrotizing flesh of those plague victims. Here we have the traditional garb plague doctors would wear when treating infected patients. They would carry a stick of incense and stuff the beaks of the mask with herbal essential oil soaked rags to prevent the transmission because they thought the smell was enough to transmit the plague. Thankfully, modernity has provided treatments for the infectious bacteria Yersinia pestis.
This is Jessica here, an amateur reporter for AU, here to inform you of the recent plague epidemic that is ravaging Madagascar. And being that plague season is upon us, there have already been 143 lives that have been claimed by the plague this year. Another contributing factor to the spread of the infection is a cultural practice known as Fama Dihana, an ancient ritual performed by Madagascans where the locals dig up their dead relatives, dance with them before they rebury them, thus spreading the infection because it can still remain on the body and be transmitted. Many locals are ignoring the outlaw of this practice that was established in response to the plague outbreak. Be warned that there are 9 countries on the travel advisory in Africa. These countries are Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Comoros, the Seychelles, the Maldives, Mauritius, and Reunion. Oh, this just in. Malawi is now the 10th country listed on this travel advisory. Now I'm going to hand the reins over to Elise, who is going to talk about the signs and symptoms and travel precautions one must take when going to these 10 countries on the travel advisory.
Thanks, Jessica. This is Elise, your AU amateur meteorologist, to briefly discuss the El Nino event that caused the worst plague epidemic that Madagascar has seen. An El Nino event occurred in 2016 where the currents changed, thus altering weather patterns. You can see here on the map the heat wave moving towards Central and South Africa. In response to the El Nino event, dry weather persisted in Madagascar, causing forest fires, thus pushing the rat population from the forest to urban areas in close proximity to people. This dramatically increased the spread of the plague from contact with rats carrying infected fleas. Like Jessica previously mentioned, 10 countries are at high risk. Such countries include Seychelles and Maldives, which are extremely popular tourist destinations. These islands have started screening passengers from Madagascar. Let's now cut to the map of East Coast Africa. Here we have a close-up of the countries that are on the travel advisory for the spread of the plague. Malawi, now joining the list, is nestled right between Mozambique and Tanzania. Tanzania's study abroad students need to be aware of the following. The incubation time for pneumonic plague, which accounts for 2/3 of the cases recorded, is 7 days. Be aware of any coughing that develops during or after your visit to high-risk areas. All 3 forms of the plague, bubonic, pneumonic, and septicemic, have been reported. Look out for flu-like symptoms and swollen lymph nodes called buboes. Also be advised that infected individuals have a 3-foot infection radius. It would behoove you to stray away from overcrowded areas.